Welcome, everybody, to episode 5 of the Think Like a Marketer show, where we interview marketers, innovators, and entrepreneurs and ask them exactly how their brain ticks. Hey, I'm Randall Chestnut, the host today, and I have with me today a special guest, Mr. You want to jump in here, Mr. Ozil de Bastos. Oh, look at that. Oh, hey, be careful now. We could do a rap battle.
We could do it, man, live right now.
I think you'd win, though. You got
I don't
that,
know,
you
man.
got that look.
So, rapper look.
Yeah. So, man, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I know you have a busy life. You got a lot going on. You got Pawed Houston. You're trying to grow that. You got your own podcast there. No Permission Needed, which is excellent, by the way. I listened to about 5 or 6 episodes just last night alone. So I binge watched you. So sorry.
Nice.
It was
Thank you so much.
Stalker. So, man, jump on here and just give us your quick dossier so everybody can, get a taste of Ozil. Man, what a cool name, by the way. I got Chestnut.
You have like a rock star name though, Randall Chestnut. I feel like you need to have you're like a pop. You could be a pop singer, dude.
Hey, you know what? It's like the Chestnut. Every Christmas, everybody knows my name. It's like what's roasting on an open fire. Exactly.
Nice.
So, I'm gonna give you the floor for a second because I want to give the chance to the guests to know who we have on and why they should stay tuned because we got a lot to go over.
So you want me to take it back where? You just want to
how you got into the podcasting, what made you do it, and some of the successes you had, and you're at episode. What are you episode? What 100?
Episode 122.
So you got some legacy behind you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So you're from Houston, right?
Yeah. So originally from Chicago, Illinois. And first and foremost, my man, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. Much appreciated. I'm excited to kind of dig into this topic, which I'm really passionate about. Love, Think Like a Marketer, everything. I've been kind of binging on you. I think I told you this off air, how I've been checking out some of your episodes. So you're doing a fantastic job, by the way.
Oh, man. Hey, I'm a rookie when it comes to that. But, hey, I'm one of those. I have the personality. It's like, I'll just do it. And some things in life, you just have to do it to learn it.
Well, you said something right there. You said, I have the personality. And personality is basically 95% of what this is all about when it comes to creating content. Is having personality when it comes to your messaging, your branding, and what you want to share to the world. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But to go back to your question, my man, originally from Chicago, been living here in Houston for quite some 10 years. And pretty much how I got into podcasting, I was connecting the dots backwards. I was always fascinated by the broadcasting world. Remember back in the days, MTV Raps and MTV?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I remember same here. So I used to love just, being a VJ. So I've always fascinated about being a VJ, interviewing celebrities, being on that end of the industry. I've always been a curious cat. I've always been really intrigued by the art of conversation, learning more about other people, extracting the stories. So I never went to broadcasting school, but I've always launched throughout my 20s a lot of content that revolves around interviewing people.
Right.
I did something with my buddy out in New York City called Indie Lou, where we would interview small business owners. And then I started a company called Connected Creatives, which is, interviewing creative people. So I naturally stumbled upon podcasting, discovered it about 5 years ago, actually about 4 years ago. And I was like, hey, listen, this is something I'm really excited about. This is cool. This gives me the opportunity, the permission to become that VJ, that broadcaster that I never went to school for. So enter podcasting, fell in love with it. I love the idea of being able to get people on the show, interviewing some of my heroes, influencers, and just was like, okay, this gives me an opportunity to have these conversations with the people that I look up to. So I've been podcasting. I started a podcast in 2016, and which was the first rendition of No Permission Needed. Completely failed in the fact that I was overthinking it. I was, I just was inconsistent with the episodes. I had a large following and then it dropped off and a lot of people stopped. So it was really weird. So I was like, let me just stop this and redo it again and do it right. So consistency was like, I'm going to do this on every Thursday. I'm going to drop an episode. And I started this podcast, this second rendition of No Permission Needed, in early 2017. And fast forward to now, I'm going to have 122 episodes. And, yes, Josh, it's all about taking action. And here I am, with consistent, and download numbers have grown over 10,000 downloads per episode and growing. So it's been pretty awesome, man.
Man, I want to take a moment, because this show, the reason that I do it live is that to give people the opportunity to ask questions. They can't always be in Ozeel's house or follow you all over, and maybe they've never even heard of you, but they do have questions that revolve around podcasting. So anyone out there that's in the audience that wishes to ask Ozeel a question, just post it here. We'll make sure it gets answered. Even if you're listening to this after and you post it, Ozeel and I will both be monitoring it and making sure we get any questions that are answered. So I'm leaving that open if in the comments if people have a question. But you pointed out something that I think is a major part of doing anything in life, not just podcasting, anything, and that's consistency. You have to be consistent. Denzel Washington, when he won the NAACP Lifetime Achievement Award last year, right? He talked about there's two things in life that you need to really focus on. And number one is you need to be committed, because without commitment, you can't start. And then the last part, which was, the speech was amazing. And the last part was like, you need to be consistent, because without consistency, you'll never finish. And that's the thing. It's like people start something, they expect to get results right away. And that just doesn't happen for anybody. Look at Oprah.
Right.
Look at her all of her failed starts. It's no different than, like you said, and I've had them too. You started out your first podcast and it didn't produce like you wanted it. And then Oprah Winfrey eventually, now look at her. She's a billionaire because she stuck with it. She was consistent. So a couple of things. The topic that you talk about, that is a huge buzzword for these days, entrepreneur. When I was younger, it was just like, I was a kid, I didn't even know I was an entrepreneur. I just thought it was somebody who wanted to buy a four-wheeler. Back then, it was actually three-wheelers. I was like, I mowed yards and I want a three-wheeler. That's it. I didn't even know I was an entrepreneur. So talk a little bit about your show and some of the reasons why you gravitated towards entrepreneurship as opposed to any other topic that you could have chose.
Great question. So throughout my 20s and early 30s, I was a musician. Believe it or not, I actually was a rapper, Randall. So that's not
Get out of here. Good thing we didn't.
Yeah. I was a gangster rapper, man. Just I was not a gangster rapper.
I'm an LL Cool J rapper.
There you go. That was pretty much. There you go. Yeah, me too, man. So I was in a live hip hop band. It was kind of like the Roots meets Red Hot Chili Peppers. Was doing it for all my my 20s and early 30s. So music played a major role in my world for the bulk of my life, and that's all I knew. So I remember being a struggling artist and trying to get shows, trying to put on shows, trying to get on record. Back then it was record labels, right? So if you're an artist, you're trying to get a record label deal and really hustling. And I remember naturally gravitating towards marketing and branding. And I was the guy who would book the shows. I would try to market the shows. And I really fell in love with that aspect. And I was very much a do-it-yourself kind of guy, trying to create something out of nothing. So I think that's where the entrepreneurial spirit came recently. And I was always struggling, and I saw my father being a musician struggle as well. So there was always this strong bond and a connection with the creative culture. Seeing a lot of creatives, photographers, freelancers, artists in general struggle in becoming an entrepreneur. And now, as you know, Randall, now the word that you hear now, which you never heard of before, which was it's creative entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah.
Before that was like, it was, basically it was a starving artist. Yeah. So it was like a creative entrepreneur, really. You're supposed to be a starving artist. So that was basically what I was my whole mission was to dismantle and equip creatives with marketing tools, with strategies, with tactics, and help creators become more entrepreneurial minded so they can be able to create their art and make money out of it.
Yeah,
So that was my mission. So no permission needed, brother, was to answer your question specifically is I wanted creatives to give themselves permission to be able to say, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creative entrepreneur. And this is what I'm going to pursue. And I'm going to make money doing what I love to do. So that was kind of the sole purpose of starting No Permission Needed, was to be able to interview influencers, thought leaders in different industries in the marketing world and the business world, to be able to extract and help creative get better as I started it.
Right. Last week I interviewed Roberto Blake. He's his thing is a creative entrepreneur. And I hadn't heard that term until I had chatted with him about it. I'm like, okay, well, I get it. It's like really working with people who are artists, not only music, but like actual art, and people who produce digital art, like he does, like he's a photographer, and working with those people. And he had a lot of insightful stuff, just like you shared. It's like, people who are artists don't necessarily see themselves as an entrepreneur. It's like when you create art, Pablo Picasso does. Of course, he's not alive, but it's like $8 million. You painted a painting and you made $8 million. That's entrepreneurship and capitalism at its finest, my friend. Right.
Well, people don't even realize, Randall, speaking of like just old school artists, I mean, Michelangelo, what people don't realize is that he actually, there was a historian who did a study on his life. And he was studying as far as, what his net worth was. And he actually was a millionaire. And people don't know that. So people, when this whole starving artist, I mean, this came later, but I mean, these old Renaissance artists, even before then, were making money and they were getting paid for their artwork. So it was really interesting finding to discover Michelangelo, who painted, some of the most monumental artwork to mankind, wasn't doing it for free. And and I think now is an exciting time to be a creative, because the creative entrepreneur does exist. Now you're seeing artists, photographers, painters, etc., make money from their art. And it doesn't have to be like that. So basically, it's thanks to the internet and where we're at now. So
I mean, you consider like your podcast. I mean, you generate revenue, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, because a lot of people, just like those artists that they refer to, the starving artist, is all artists have the opportunity to make money, as much money as they want. It's just they don't realize it. Same in the podcasting world. They just start producing this information, and they don't realize that they can actually get paid for that information and how they make that happen. You talked about these artists from antiquity, the Leonardo da Vinci's. Man, I recently read the book. If you haven't got a chance to read this book about Leonardo's life, man, I learned so much about that guy, and I'm a history buff that I did not know. The author is the same guy who did Steve Jobs' book. What is his name? God, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. But if you get a chance to check it out as an artist, you'll really appreciate him. He never actually finished anything he ever did.
Really?
Nothing.
Wow.
They even had to finish the Mona Lisa.
I did not know that. Really?
Yeah. Huh. He was ADD times 10.
Right. I can relate. Leonardo's my man. I can respect that.
Yeah. Well, you got a couple of people on here. Mac Blankenship says good morning. Tony Rodriguez. We got the girls from the Caffeinated Show.
What up?
Kimberly. Let's see. Hello. We got Kelly just coming on. Joshua Webb on.
Hello, Kelly.
Hey, we appreciate all those people that are coming on.
Absolutely.
And again, if you're just jumping on, you have any questions for Oziel, or you might have one for me, but it's mainly for him. Definitely put them in there. We'll get them answered. So I want to move on to the next phase. So, we met, actually, I met at one of your meetups, and you had a really great presentation. I mean, that room was packed. I mean, they had to actually go get more chairs. I think there's this movement. Podcast is nothing new, right? Podcast has been around for a while, but I think we're having this resurgence. Is that the word I want to use?
Yeah.
And of podcasting, because timing couldn't be better. Like technology now, you're having cars that actually have the podcast button, the iTunes. You just push it and you could listen to radio on demand.
Right.
For those people who are on, give them a quick education on what podcast is. We assume sometimes, because we're in the industry, that everybody knows what a podcast is.
Yeah.
And what your thoughts on why it's been around for a while and why you're seeing people moving. And we talked about it a little bit. These big brands are starting to move on over on it. When you see big brands appreciating something, you know that it has some meat to it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
for those who don't know what a podcast is,
for those who don't know what podcasting is or what a podcast is, I mean, you nailed it. It's radio on demand. It's basically an MP3 that's on the internet, and you record that MP3 and people can download that MP3. Now there's platforms like iTunes, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, different platforms where they can actually plug in and download your episode and listen to it at their convenience. So that's essentially what it is. It's basically MP3 on the internet. It's online radio. You are the broadcaster. You are the podcaster. And you can record, you can interview people, you can do sports talk radio. I mean, anything that you can imagine, you can turn it into a podcast. And as far as you talked about, making a lot of brands coming in and why we're seeing this reemergence, really, of podcasting. It was really hot in 2012. You saw like a big spike. A lot of the podcasters that I knew of, and they're still rocking it, like John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire and Pat Flynn from Smart. I mean, these guys were doing it back then. And now we're seeing this reemergence and this appreciation for the podcasting platform, because I think here's a couple things. Number one, I think celebrities are coming into this sector now, which kind of made it a little cool. Big brands like Red Bull, Prezi, and all these other major companies are now starting their own podcasts to be able to share back-end content and back-end work that they're doing. They're working on exclusive stuff on podcasting, which is awesome. And I mean, it's becoming a thing where people are seeing the ROI, and the ROI is authority, really building a great community centered around the thing that you love doing. And it's just a prime spot because audio and voice is becoming big now, Randall. That, now we're seeing, home iPod or HomePod and Alexa. I mean, that's all like booming. It's only in the early stages. So I think podcasting right now, it's going to go just like this, and they're going to be rolling together. And now it's going to be like, hey, Alexa, I want to listen to Think Like a Marketer. Boom. Hey, Alexa, let me hear about. So now it's making it easy. Voice is making it easy. It's convenience. Audio is convenient. It's easily accessible. Radio on demand. You can listen to it whenever you like. I listen to podcasts when I'm cleaning. Like, I don't even listen to the radio anymore, brother. I just like, whenever I'm cleaning or I'm doing, I'm outside driving, I'm plugged into podcasts. There's podcasts now that's being implemented in automobiles. So the automobile industry is now jumping on and adding that automatically in that. So, and with other phones is really easy to get to. So again, audio is growing. It's easy. With video, you have to sit down and watch it. There's some work involved, right? When it comes to written, you have to sit down and read it. There's focus, but audio is passive. You're just chilling, you're doing your work. And again, that's the reason why I think audio is going to continue to grow, because of the easiness and the convenience that is because we're becoming more, busier, right? Randall, we're moving, we're shaking, we're hustling, and we're just becoming just busy as a society. Our attention span is just, always going. So audio complements that. And I think that's the reason why podcasting is here to stay, and it's going to continue to grow. And you're going to see bigger brands now adapting podcasting as a platform and as a way to be able to cultivate relationships with the community, but also use it as a marketing tool to market their own products and services. So there's a lot of opportunities, brother.
So, owning a digital agency, I see it. The common thing you want when you're working with these brands is they want to know what that ROI, return on their investment. They give you some money and they want to be able to measure it.
Right.
Here's the best thing about that. That's the biggest difference between radio. And there's a lot of different reasons, but this one is a big one for brands, is they could actually measure how many people's actually downloading this podcast.
That's right.
Radio, they have to guess. I mean, you got to be honest. How do they know who is actually listening to that radio program at that moment? These people are on a podcast. They actually have to engage with it and actually push a button to download it, and then push a button and actually watch it. And then you can see how long they watched it or watched it or listened to it. This form of content, which is amazing. And then they could measure all of their episodes and really dive into, or the people who like that, you know, on the other side of the brand, and see like, well, hey, we noticed that they're really liking us interviewing these types of people and not these other types that we thought. And they can really understand the nuances of their actual show. So that's one. The other part is that you said you had talked about is just the changing demographics of people. Like they don't want to listen to the content when you tell them to, which is what radio was. You know, when I was younger, it was Moby, KOL, those types of shows, you know, and they came on at a certain time. It's like, now if I wanted to, and he was around, I could listen to Moby in the morning in the afternoon.
Right.
So, you know, talking about podcasts, like you said, it is easy to produce, but hard to be good at it. I will say that, depending on what you're doing. You got people like John Dumas makes it look easy because he's been doing it a while. Right. He's been doing it a long time. And that guy makes it very transparent. Every month you can go to, it's iofire.com. Entrepreneur.
Yeah, EO Fire. Yeah,
EO Fire. Mm-hmm. And I think in March he made $195,000 from a podcast. That's so crazy. For anyone out there who thinks that just
6 figures,
a brand is giving him that money, and a big share of it, if you can look at it. And then you've got like the other people that you would name, but you don't have to be these big brand like that to make money. You know, maybe you don't need $195,000. Maybe you have a hobby in fishing. That was the other thing, right? That you can really niche down to talking about fishing lures. If you wanted to do a podcast on lures, and believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there who love fishing. Like they would listen to a fishing lure show and then have a fishing lure company sponsor you. Right. And maybe they're not giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe they are only giving you $500 a month, but $500 a month to talk about something you like, that's a boat payment for people.
Right.
So, so one of the, you know, we talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to give you the time to what do you see when you're working? Because you work with a lot of people who are getting into the space. What do you think some of the major challenges are for getting people to just start and actually like push the button? You know, Brian Fanzo, he talks about he's running a campaign, just push the button and do it. Right. What are some challenges you see and it's keeping people and ways that you walk them through getting them to actually push the button?
Right. The biggest, along with mindset, I think it's not knowing enough, not seeing themselves as somebody worthy to share a message, to be some kind of authority figure in the industry. Once the mindset is taken care of, which that's always a challenge. You know, sometimes in the beginning, I remember it's like, it took me a while for me to get into my interviewing flow. You know, it's like, am I a good interviewer? Am I talking too much? Am I asking the right questions? So there's a lot of that. And that comes with consistency and taking practice. And all the people that you talked about, everybody, you know, as everybody who's watching this, you know that it takes time to be able to get to a place where you're comfortable and you're an expert and you could do this at ease. So it takes practice. But the other thing, Randall, is the technical side. Yes. Without a doubt. You're part of our Pawed Houston, which, by the way, anybody who's listening from the Pawed Houston community, I know they're probably tuned in. Shout out to Pawed Houston, which is a podcasting community here that we created here in Houston. Great Facebook group, awesome people. And we have a lot of beginner podcasters. And the biggest hurdle is the technical side, the microphones, the mixers, the software, the editing, and then the marketing. You know, so there's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to podcasting. So it's fun, but just like anything else, it does require some work, and you do have to learn the basic stuff. But it's basic, so it's very simple. I mean, you get on a mic, you can record it. Some people even do it on their laptop, or something like this with iRig, right, on their cell phone, right? They record it, and then you basically upload it, and that's it. It could be that simple, but it requires some learning. And you got to practice it, and then there's people like myself that are here willing to help out and create live workshops and courses to be able to help people that are starting podcasting and helping them launch their podcast. But for sure, the technical side, Randall, as you know, it could be daunting. It could be daunting, man, without a doubt. I mean, it was daunting for me. I'm not an audio engineer guy per se. I'm still learning as well. But I do have an awesome network of people that do know their audio stuff that I reach out to say, hey, listen, what kind of mixer, or should I get this condenser? So I've learned along, a lot along the way, you see. So I started press record and started doing the podcast way before I got familiar with what the audio technical side is all about.
Right. So you got a question here.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah. It says, Tony asked, is there a correlation in the success of podcasting now and the success of the YouTubers? Do they go hand in hand? I think what she's asking is, if somebody, everybody pretty much everybody knows these YouTubers are killing it with, views, making money. And that's tremendously harder than actually producing a podcast, like you pointed out, because now you have an extra layer of video and entertainment level value. So I guess what she was asking is there people are seeing YouTubers making money, and do they say, oh, well, maybe I'm not a YouTuber, but this podcasting, do you see people that maybe attempted to do YouTube and they failed, and maybe they're saying, hey, maybe podcasting is a better option for me?
That's a great question, Tony, and thanks for tuning in. So to answer your question, and I have several things that I'm going to rant about here, so hopefully I won't go long-winded.
Go.
Number one, go. All right, man. So number one, I always tell people, if you're a little shy in front of the camera and you're comfortable more with kind of being faceless and being behind the microphone, but you can express yourself because you're kind of shy, introverted, podcasting is the way to go, because there's still a massive audience that you can cultivate and build and share your message. Now, if you mentioned something, Randall, you talked about entertaining. When it comes to video, I think, especially when I tune into people that I like watching on YouTube, entertainment is very, very important. Like, that's the focal point. Content is always going to be king on both platforms, but when it comes to YouTube, you really have to cultivate that presence to be able to captivate somebody. And when it comes to video, but audio, you still have to do the same thing. They're two completely different platforms. But I think with audio, I think it's finding what your strength is. If you feel like you're strong with words and you're comfortable articulating yourself, then go with audio. I would say start with audio. But if you feel like you're a video person and you have this really cool like personality, YouTube is probably the best way to go, because if you see the YouTube, there's all the great personalities are on YouTube. But also in audio, it does allow you to do the same thing. So again, it goes back to doing you and being comfortable. Now, I'm going to add on to something. Somebody asked me this question not too long ago, and it said, hey, I've noticed people are now putting their podcasts on YouTube. Is that cool? And my answer and my own thing is no. I don't think. I think YouTube is a platform of its own, and podcasting is a platform of its own. A lot of podcasters are now putting their audio, and I'm like, no, don't do that. I mean, because if people want to listen to your audio, they'll just download it. So that's another thing that I'm seeing a trend of podcasters try to do. Personally, with me, I don't think it's a great strategy to be able to put audio on YouTube. Right. I think it's best to kind of keep them separate. But again, that's my personal opinion. But to answer your question, I don't know if I answered your question, Tony, but yeah, there is definitely a correlation. They're both great platforms. If you can do both, awesome. But I think stick with one that you're comfortable with, nail it until you're comfortable. You got a good flow. And then if you want to do something else like video, then you can go ahead and transition to a different platform, because they both are going to require a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of investment for you to build that consistency and build that audience. So
it looks like we got another question from Mac Blankenship. He says, do I have to have a mixer to get started if my guest has a microphone?
Oh, good question. Here, I have something right here, my man. What's his name?
Mac Blankenship. Matt.
What's up, Matt? What's
Mortgage
up,
Matt.
The return of the Mac.
Yeah, Mac Daddy.
Mac Daddy.
What
Daddy Mac. All right.
Make you jump. What was it?
Yeah. Crisscross. Mac Daddy Mac.
They wore their pants backwards, right? Was that those guys?
That was those guys, man. Yeah. That was those guys. Those crazy guys. Good song though. They released a couple good songs. So Mac, my man, this is all you need, brother. And I'll share this once this is done. This is Assur X2U, and what this does is this bypasses the mixer. So what you do here is basically blah blah blah. Let me do this real quick. This plugs in to this Shure mic. So this cable plugs in here, plugs into this, and then I don't have the cable here, but basically it looks like a cable like this. This plugs into this, and then this plugs into your laptop. And that's it, you're done. And you can actually record through this USB mic connector. So you can bypass it. The only thing about this, if you go this route, it's easy. So if you want to start podcasting, I recommend using this just to kind of get started. But later on, you want to get into the mixer. But to get started, this is a great way. I started like this, and I still use this from time to time because it's easy. But yeah, it's a short. I think it's about $100, maybe less than that. But yeah, it bypasses the mixer. You can adjust your mics. The only thing is you can't really adjust the other person. So this is kind of limited when it comes to audio. But you can adjust your mic. You can adjust the mic gain and the volume on your headpiece. And it gets the job done, and the quality sounds solid. So this plugs into the laptop, to the mic, and you're done. So it's really, really easy.
Cool.
I hope that answers your question, my man.
Yep, yeah, I think you covered it. So a quick basic. So if you're just a basic, I want to get started and make it easy for myself, and it's affordable. What are the basic equipment that you recommend that they would need, and how they would?
Right. Okay, so a laptop. Right. All you need is a laptop. You need a microphone. You can use, I strongly suggest going with dynamic microphones. A condenser mic, which is basically what I have here. This is a condenser mic. I was telling Randall, this died on me yesterday. So I'm actually in the market of buying a new one. So this is a condenser mic. This one costs about $300. You don't have to go with this, especially if you're a beginner. This picks up a lot of sound, so it's very, very sensitive. But I would go with a dynamic microphone, which you can buy. And what I'll do, Randall, is I'll actually post a list of some things that people can buy, less than $100. A mic, laptop, you can buy this, what I just showed you right now, the USB connector. And that is it, man. And then as far as software, you need Skype if you're going to do, or Be Live or something like some software to be able to record interviews if you want to do interviews. And then if you don't want to do interviews and just want to record yourself talking, you just get something like GarageBand or Audacity and basically record what you want to do. You turn that into an MP3 and then you upload it to iTunes. And it's pretty simple. That's it, man. I mean, that's all you need.
Cool. And then another question, because I get this too, and I'm sure this is like at the top of your list in questions, is how often should they produce a podcast?
Every day, every other
day. That's a challenging question to answer too. It depends.
Okay, so number one, consistency, right? So make sure you're consistent. Make sure you can deliver. I saw my audience grow because I was consistent. So every Thursday I published a new podcast episode. So that's first. Number two, it'll move the needle. But if you're starting off, I would say start off with one. Get that flow, get that cadence going. And then you guys continue doing that. And then later on, you can go to two episodes. If you really want to see your downloads go up, 3 is the magic number. If you can release 3 episodes per week, you'll see some massive growth. But again, I don't recommend that in the beginning. But 2, I think it's kind of a good spot. So 3, if you want to see massive growth, 2 is kind of like if you want to see kind of in the sweet spot, maybe Tuesday and Thursday. Monday is a good time to release a podcast episode. What I've noticed, I looked at analytics, and then Wednesdays are also good days. But yeah, man, it's all it all depends on how much time you have to be able to release an episode. But I think between 1 and 3 is enough. You have people like John Lee Dumas and some crazy machines out there that do an episode every day.
Yes.
Which I can't do, man. Hats off to people who can do it on a daily basis. That's a lot of work. The strategy is they take one day and they batch them all and they release them. But it's a lot of work, and I think you definitely need a team. But for the beginner podcaster, I would say start with 1, be consistent, have a regular schedule, and then if you have time and once you get a groove in, as far as editing and know how to put these things together quickly, then go to 2 episodes, and then I think you'll see the numbers definitely go up. So
yeah, I think the most important part is people just to do it. And there's some, even me, it's like you feel like this massive sense of accomplishment. And I've done a lot, right? Especially in this business. But there was this cool feeling about when you went to iTunes and you searched and you said, please let my podcast actually show up. And it shows up. And now you save it to your list, and you're on the list of, because I listen to Tony Robbins, Gary V's, Ben Shapiro's, and you see your name on something satisfying about that you like did that. Yeah. And it's an accomplishment. And I think, because it's for all of us, that we tend to judge ourselves very harshly when we are listening, especially when if you're not used to listening to your own voice in the way that other people hear it.
Right.
And I'm sure
yeah. I mean, no, definitely. I know exactly how you feel. In the beginning, I was like, oh man, I sound like that. I sound sexy like Barry White.
Listen to this redneck accent I have. Are you from Louisiana?
But you have your personality, man. And let's talk about personality, Randall, because I want to riff on that. You mentioned personality in the beginning of this recording, and I think that's very important. Another question I always ask is, how can I be more charismatic or more personable on the mic? And again, that takes time. And I think everybody has a unique flavor to them. And I think it's important to, when I'm even coaching people, I'm like, hey, listen, that little quirkiness, that accent, that energy, that, let that out, let that out. I mean, let's talk about people like, Tony Robbins and Tony Robbins has that really distinctive voice, right? That raspy voice.
And he's got banana hands too.
Oh my God.
That's Shallow House.
See those? Oh my God. Yes.
They are.
Yes.
You've seen them in person,
Yeah. I mean, and then, Gary Vaynerchuk, the reason I think Gary Vaynerchuk is such a standout personality, aside from the knowledge he spits, is the fact that he is like completely authentic, New York City, in your face, like, yo, and he's loud, he interrupts, but that's what makes him attractive. So for anybody who's watching this, if you have some reservations of like, man, I really don't have a personality, how do I tap into that side that's going to be entertaining enough for people to plug in every week? Be you. Like that do you, and I think people are going to fall in love with you. And that's how it goes. And that's your personality. So again, your voice, your energy, your flow. I think that's very, very important. And I think that's something that we don't talk about much when it comes to being content creators, is the importance of being you, of amplifying your personality on video, on audio, on written form. Have style. Like, it's okay to be you. And I think that's the biggest hurdle, because you have the imposter syndrome and you have people that are trying to be like these big other influencers, and you can see it. But that's what I love about you, man. It's like you have your own style, like everything from your accent to your vibe. I mean, you really are who you are. And when I listen to other people and they're trying to mimic everybody else, it's just like, you have great content, but man, your style is just phony. So anybody who's listening, be comfortable in your own skin. And podcasting is a great opportunity to be able to share that. Nobody judges you. And people are going to fall. As a matter of fact, people are going to fall in love with you because you are you. So that's something that I definitely want to help people become better content creators, and just being comfortable in their own skin and doing themselves,
Man, I couldn't agree more. Benjamin Disraeli.
Got me pumped up.
Oh man, good. He had a quote, and I don't remember exactly how the quote went, but basically it said that 50% of the people are going to love you and 50% are going to hate you, no matter who you are and what you do. So if you go into it already knowing that, then you're not going to be any different than anyone else. You think about like Lauren Hutton. She had the little space in her tooth, right? She got voted the sexiest woman alive at one point.
There you go.
That's a flaw that most people would say actually was a flaw. I didn't think it was a flaw, but and you look at Madonna, she kind of had that, and then Cindy Crawford did the mole. Right, she had the mole. Wasn't Cindy Crawford that had the mole?
And people used to make fun of her. People used to make fun of her, and she's a sexy woman, and she's aged gracefully. By the way, she looks amazing. By the way, have you seen her lately?
That's because her husband's a hotel tycoon. And I work with another group that works with the hotel industry. So we see that content going on a lot. So we're getting close to wrapping it up. And I want to close out with something that's going to be very powerful and useful for everybody that listens to it, whether you're listening to it, because I download this onto my podcast so those people can get it. live or pre-recorded, and that is Pawed Houston. I wanted you to say, hey, this is something that I know that you're super passionate about. And I mean, I'm all in with you any way that I can help, because I think there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of great things to say, and they just don't know. Like you said, the technical stuff scares them. They do have a personality, but they just need somebody to just help them push the button.
Right.
And then when they get the juice from it, you plug them in. Right. So talk a little bit about Pawed Houston, where they can go, and what's the vision behind that.
Yeah. So Pawed Houston was started about 3 months ago. And I had a moment, Randall, where I was like, yo, I know I'm not the only podcaster here in Houston. And you and I were talking how we attend conferences all over the US and would meet content creators. And I was like, I go to all these conferences and I go back to my city, but I'm not connecting with my own people here locally. I'm like, I need to change that. And I know there's podcasters here. I know they're podcasters. So my whole mission was to be able to create a community of active podcasters. So kind of basically dig them out wherever you're at in Houston, Southwest, Ailey, wherever you're at, Woodlands, and bring them all together in one room, collaborate, connect, learn from each other, support each other. Right. And also, I wanted to be a platform where there's people that are interested in starting a podcast, whether for fun or for business, and help them start their own podcast. So I wanted to make it educational. I want to make it collaborative. And, and we've had 3 meetups. Our first meetup was at Cafe Brazil, had about 18 people. The last meetup where I met you, we had about close to, I think, 30 people that attended. Yeah. And then the last one was, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but also had another amazing turnout. So it's a monthly meetup. So if anybody who's watching, if you're interested in learning how about podcasting, if you're an active podcaster and you want to just connect with other podcasters, we're going to do a monthly meetup. We'll have speakers, right? We'll have speakers that will be talking about marketing, how to market, how to start, audio, etc. And you can go to thinkozeal.com/Pawed Houston. And I'm not sure if you can do that, Randall, or if not, then I can add that in the show notes.
Yep.
So thank you, Jessica. And Jessica says she is about to start her own podcast, and she's doing something really cool, Randall. She's actually launching her own podcast launch party.
That's
so
awesome.
Shout out to Jessica. Yeah. So she's doing it big. She's active. And she's an awesome member. So so anybody who's interested in starting a podcast, who wants to get connected with other podcasters. What's up, Eric? Eric's another fellow Pawed Houston in the house. Pawed Houston is the vision, my man. And Randall, I think I mentioned this to you too as well, that I want this to continue to grow, my man. I want this to be infested with podcasters, with audio content consumers, and make this into an event, and to continue meeting other digital marketing strategists like yourself and other marketers, and help other businesses here locally in Houston start their podcasts. Because I think there's a lot of power in helping businesses get on podcasts. And also not only that, but even hobbyists, people who just want us to talk about, as you said, whether it's fishing or boxing or spirituality or holistic living, whatever it is, man, you have a message. There's people out there that want to connect with you, want to listen to what you have to say. And if you're passionate, and that's another thing, if you're passionate about something, start a podcast and just share it, just press record. You'll be surprised how many people want to connect with you. I got an email. I missed 2 weeks one time because I was sick. I want to tell you this real quick story. I was sick and didn't release. I felt like crap because I was like, man, I did not release a podcast episode. Somebody reached out to me from Sweden and was like, Ozeal. It was like broken. It's like, I'm so-and-so from Sweden. Where have you been? You haven't released a podcast episode. And dude, that changed my whole world. And I was like, damn, Sweden. And there's somebody who's holding me accountable from across the world. So just to show you how impactful and how powerful podcasting is, sometimes you don't get to see who's listening to your content, but they're listening. And it made me it inspired me and motivated me to continue going and to know that I'm influencing and helping other people across the globe. So Pod Houston is basically a community that I want to continue cultivating, my man. I know you're a part of it, and I really do appreciate you attending that second event, which was awesome. And the fact that you're reaching out to me and that you see that you're now in the podcasting world as well goes to show that you also, as a genius marketer that you are, you understand the power of podcasting, man. So, yeah, man. I mean, Pod Houston is where it's at. thinkozio.com/Pod Houston. Say hello. I'll introduce you to the group. We're having a meetup in a couple weeks, I believe. And then we'll have one every month, once a month. So yeah, man, I'm excited.
Man,
I'm really excited.
Awesome. You know, so I was reading a book the other day, and there was a quote in the book, and I have never in my life considered getting a tattoo. Nothing wrong with a tattoo. It's just not for me. Right. But if I did ever decide to get a tattoo, the quote that I read in this book would be what I would get. And the quote was the purpose of life is to find your gift. The meaning of life is to give it away. And I think that's really what Pod Houston is really all about, helping people find what their gift is and help them give it. You know, when we say give it away, we're not saying you don't get paid, but put the message out there, because how many people does it take to make a difference in life? It just takes one. And you don't know whatever that information, you know, they may have heard it 100 times. If you have kids, you know this. You tell your kid over and over, but somebody else that they really view differently tells them and they get it like at that moment. So you never know if you're the person that whatever that message that they needed to hear, whether it was they're struggling with depression, they're struggling with weight, or whatever it is in their life, they're stuck in a crappy job and they don't know where to go, and they hear you and they get it, and you change their life. And sometimes in life, you never know that you actually were a part until years later when they find you and their life is different. Because I've had this happen to me. And it's like 5 years after the fact, and they came to you and was like, dude, that's all I needed to hear. And, you know, when you're running
amazing, man.
Yeah, you're running on fumes and somebody tells you that, boom, tanks filled back up and you're ready to go. And I wanted to say thank you, because I know, or congratulations, because you pointed her out. She said her iTunes accepted her podcast.
Oh, wow, Jessica, awesome.
So
Jessica,
with
congratulations.
Naked, what is it again? I read it down here. Her,
is it unprocessed, I believe, or the naked, the naked truth? Jessica, hit us up.
Unnaked talk with unprocessed Jess.
Naked talk.
Yep.
I love that.
Congratulations, Jess.
Congratulations.
Well, hey, I want to give you the opportunity. We're going to close out where they could contact you to. And I know that you have, I think it's like a $10 a month like membership that you can. That first off is just 10. If someone is really serious about something, $10 a month. I mean, you're basically giving it away just to help them push the button and to cover your time, because your time shouldn't be free. I mean, people need to respect those things. Give them a little bit of where they can find you. I'll come back and I'll make sure that I put this in the heading. So for anybody who's watching it live now, give us a little time. I'll come back and it'll be in there. If you're watching this, later, it's already there. So go look.
Yeah. So you guys can connect with me at thinkozeo, ThinkOzeal.com. And you guys, that's actually my personal site. You can check out all the podcast episodes. You can subscribe to the podcast No Permission Needed, which is every Thursday on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and anywhere you can find a podcast. So it's a weekly podcast show. And if you're interested in joining Pod Houston, if you live here in Houston, you can go to podhouston.com. The site is under construction. I believe there is an opt-in or somewhere where you can. I actually did a podcast mixtape. It's an audio mixtape that I did that kind of gives you basic stuff on how to start a podcast. You can subscribe. You get that audio in your inbox. And when you subscribe, I'll add you to the list and I'll keep you guys posted concerning the next Pod Houston meetup, which hopefully will be in a couple weeks. It's been a crazy month last month, but if not this month, definitely in July, it's going to be a monthly meetup. And I'll give you all the information as far as if you guys want to subscribe and be a member, the membership, I'll send you that as well. So I think it's definitely only $10 to be able to connect with other awesome podcasters, not too shabby. So I'm excited. And if you're in Houston, I look forward to meeting you guys at the next Pod Houston event. And if you have any questions, you can drop a comment below, or you can email me at thinkozeo@gmail.com. You can email me there with any questions you have about podcasting. I'll be happy to help.
Well, Ozeal, man, again, I want to thank you. You gave me the most valuable thing that you could give somebody in life, and that's your time. And I think that, I can see it in the feed here. Maybe I didn't get to everybody, from Kelly to Mac to Tony, the questions that you helped them with, that they really appreciate you taking the time to do that and putting together at Pawed Houston. Definitely going to be a part of that and want to see how I can help in any way. And again, thank you for coming on the show today. And I definitely going to have you on at another date when we have a slot. Maybe talk a little bit more about some other stuff that you got going on as well.
For sure. And hey, definitely. Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Randall. I'm sorry.
I leave in that last little bit if you got something.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for everybody who tuned in today. And please feel free to share this video with anybody who, all your entrepreneurial friends and network. Anybody who's interested in podcasting, and anybody who's really just interested in becoming a better marketer. Think Like a Marketer. I mean, such an amazing brand. I'm honored, Randall, when you reached out to me last month. I know I wasn't able to do it. It was crazy, but I'm so excited. I think you have a great brand. You're a great host. And brother, I'm looking forward to that consistency and seeing you pump out amazing content out there. You're doing a fantastic job, my man, and I'm honored to be a part of episode 5. So cheers to you, and thank you so much.
I appreciate that. And hey, I appreciate anybody who take the time to actually listen to this country voice. And,
sexy.
Yeah. Think Like a Marketer was just born out of the old Zig Ziglar. You give everyone everything they want, you'll have everything you need in life. That 51-49. Always give more than you expect from someone, and life will always be good. That's the premise of Think Like a Marketer. Always give before you ask for anything. You can never go wrong with that, right?
Can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Man, that's drawn to the close on our show. And hey, for everybody out there who's not already a part of the Think Like a Marketer Show Facebook page, you can go to Think Like a Marketer Show and like us there. If you want to listen to the audio version, maybe you don't have a chance to listen to or watch Ozil with his dynamic personality and his hat. Yeah, he wears the got to put the glasses on. Hold on. Exactly. There you go. We're gonna next time we're gonna have you do a rap out. We're gonna do a rap battle.
Let's do it. You can go. It's been a while, man, but I can do it.
iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. It's Think Like a Marketer Show. Go ahead and download that. We're gonna have other marketers, innovators, and entrepreneurs coming on the show, and as it grows, and we take recommendations on types of people that you want to do. And hey, if you're wanting to be a guest on the show, just hit me up on the Think Like a Marketer Show. Again, thanks everybody for coming on, and I'm out.
Peace.